Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are looking at a document that, well, it really marks a before and after moment in Indian medical education.
It certainly
We are
does.
analyzing the National Medical Commission, the Prevention and Prohibition of Ragging in Medical Colleges and Institutions Regulations, 2021.
It's a mouthful.
It is. And, usually these regulatory notifications are just incredibly dry, the kind of thing you'd read to fall asleep. But this one is different.
Oh,
It
completely.
reads less like a rule book and more like, I don't know, a declaration of war on a specific mindset.
I think that's a very fair assessment. This isn't just a minor update or some gentle suggestion. The 2021 regulations are a direct response to a long history of systemic failure.
Right.
If you look at the context, I mean, it's referencing Supreme Court judgments from way back in 2007, 2009. This document is essentially the government admitting that gentle persuasion just didn't work.
So now they're bringing out the big guns.
They are. They're bringing out the heavy artillery to, and this is a quote from the text, root out ragging in all its forms.
And the scope here is just massive. We're not just talking about students getting a lecture. This whole framework pulls in faculty, the administration, parents, even the police.
Everyone is on the hook.
But before we get into the enforcement side of things, I really want to start with the definition. Because when I was reading Regulations 3 and 4, I realized my own mental image of ragging was probably 20 years out of date.
I think that's true for most people. We tend to think of ragging as, physical violence or some kind of overt intimidation, the classic movie tropes.
Exactly.
And while the regulations definitely cover that, they go so much deeper into the psychological side of it.
Right. It defines ragging as any disorderly conduct, spoken or written, that causes, and I'm quoting here, annoyance, hardship, psychological harm, or fear or apprehension thereof.
And that word annoyance is key.
The threshold is incredibly low. Annoyance, or just the apprehension of harm, that's a world away from the old standard of actual physical contact.
And that's intentional. The law is trying to close that, oh, I was just joking, loophole. You see it again in the section that talks about shame.
What does it say?
The regulations explicitly forbid asking a student to do any act they wouldn't ordinarily do if it creates a sense of shame, torment, or embarrassment.
So that classic scene of a senior making a fresher, I don't know, dance in the canteen or propose to a stranger, that's not just harmless fun anymore.
Not if it causes embarrassment that adversely affects their physique or psyche, no. It is now codified as a punishable offense.
Wow.
And they've really modernized the discrimination aspect as well.
Mm-hmm.
Regulation 4 is very, very specific. It lists protected classes that include color, race, religion, caste, ethnicity.
Okay, that's standard.
But then it adds gender identity specifically, including transgender students, sexual orientation, and economic background.
That inclusion of economic background and sexual orientation feels, well, pretty progressive for a document of this kind.
It is. It means mocking someone's accent, their clothes, their perceived wealth.
Right.
That's not just bullying anymore. It's a clear regulatory violation.
And it also covers the digital world.
Precisely. It acknowledges the reality we live in. Ragging now includes abuse through email, blogs, social media posts, any kind of public insult online.
But there's one phrase in the definition that, for me, was the most revealing. It really gets to the intent of the people who wrote this.
You're talking about the sadistic thrill part.
Yes, that language is so powerful. It prohibits acts that involve deriving perverted pleasure, vicarious or sadistic thrill from someone else's discomfort.
It's visceral language, isn't it? It just strips away any defense of, oh, it's tradition or we're just toughening them up. It calls it what it is.
Sadism.
Sadism.
It's a powerful reframe. It basically says, we know what you're doing, and we know exactly why you're doing it. So, okay, we know what the beast is. Now let's look at the cage they built for it. The document outlines this sort of fortress strategy.
Measures taken before the students even meet each other.
Yes. And what really stood out to me was the focus on the admission process. It feels like they are building a paper trail from day one.
It's all about establishing liability. Regulation 5 makes it mandatory for admission brochures to print these warnings in black and white. But the real teeth are in the affidavits.
Forms I-N too.
Right. Every single student and every single parent or guardian has to sign an undertaking.
And this isn't just a simple, I promise to be good, slip of paper. They have to formally acknowledge that they've read the regulations and, crucially, that they understand the penalties.
which completely removes the defense of ignorance. You can't come back later and say, oh, I didn't know I could get expelled for that.
Let's find a paper saying you knew.
Exactly. But there's another, maybe subtler, more big brother aspect to this admission phase.
You mean the transfer certificate?
The transfer or migration certificate, yes. I noted that too. Regulation 8. It says the certificate has to include a report on the student's behavioral pattern.
Which is a profound shift. It essentially creates a permanent behavioral record. The previous school has to note if the student showed persistent, violent, or aggressive behavior.
So if a student comes in with a negative entry on that certificate,
The new medical college is mandated to keep an intense watch on them.
intense watch, it almost sounds like they're on parole.
It does. But practically, how does a college even manage that? I mean, you have hundreds, maybe thousands of students.
It's a huge logistical challenge, no doubt. But it works in tandem with the structural segregation plan. The regulations advise staggered admissions.
Meaning?
Bring the first-year students, the freshers, onto campus before the senior batches return. Let them get settled.
And then you physically separate them.
Right. Freshers are supposed to be lodged in a completely separate hostel block, or at least a separate wing.
Creating a safety bubble.
Exactly. A bubble that is actively guarded. The regulations give the warden an immense amount of responsibility. They have to be accessible 24/7, be given mobile phones, and, this is key, the security personnel answer directly to the warden on all anti-ragging matters.
So you can't have security guards just looking the other way because a senior student told them to.
The chain of command is crystal clear.
Okay, but walls and guards don't work if no one is watching what happens inside. Which brings us to the surveillance aspect, what the regulations call the eyes and ears.
And this is where the regulations really try to penetrate that code of silence that usually protects the people doing the ragging. They set up a multi-tiered system.
The first layer being the mentoring cell.
Yes. And the ratio here is pretty surprising. Regulation 14 calls for 1 faculty mentor for every 6 students.
6. Wow. For a lot of colleges, that is a very, very resource-heavy requirement.
It's designed to be high touch. And the duties are intense. The mentor is expected to interact with their freshers every single day.
And they have to visit their hostel rooms, coordinate with the wardens.
And they have to keep a diary of all these interactions.
That diary is the legal safeguard, isn't it? If a student is being abused and that mentor's diary just says all is fine for 2 straight weeks, that mentor is now potentially liable for negligence.
Correct. It forces accountability onto the faculty. But while the mentors are sort of the good cops, Regulation 12 establishes the anti-ragging squad.
These are the enforcers.
The enforcers. The wording suggests a mobile strike team. They're supposed to be vigilant and agile, conducting surprise raids on hostels, canteens, common areas.
But the part that really got me was the specific signs they're trained to look for. It felt very almost forensic.
Ah, you're referring to Regulation 12. It's a brilliant piece of drafting. The squad is instructed to look for indirect evidences, specifically an inability to stay awake during the day.
Because that implies they're being kept up all night by seniors.
Exactly. Or an inability to sleep due to fear. The regulations recognize that ragging in medical colleges is often nocturnal.
So if a whole batch of freshers is falling asleep in their morning lecture, the squad isn't supposed to think they're lazy.
They're supposed to investigate it as potential evidence of abuse.
That's a level of institutional awareness you just don't expect to see in a government circular. It shows they actually understand the mechanics of how this stuff happens. It's not just, did you see someone get hit? It's, why is everyone so exhausted?
Right. And then overseeing all of this, you have the Anti-Ragging Committee. This is the main oversight body, headed by the head of the institution. But the composition is what's really interesting. It's not just an internal college affair.
No, they bring in the outside world. They have representatives from the civil administration, the police, local media, and even NGOs.
Bringing the police and the media into those committee meetings is a very bold move. It completely destroys the ability of a college to just handle things quietly.
It guarantees external transparency. If the local newspaper reporter is sitting right there on the committee, you can't exactly sweep a serious incident under the rug.
You really can't.
Okay, so let's say the fortress is breached, the surveillance fails, an incident of ragging happens. This is where the document shifts from prevention to punishment. And the timeline here seems incredibly aggressive.
It is. It's designed to prevent any kind of cover-up. Regulation 22 sets the clock ticking. Once an incident is reported, the squad does an on-the-spot inquiry. If the head of the institution believes a penal offense has occurred, They must file a first information report, an FIR, with the police
Within 24 hours.
within 24 hours.
And that 24-hour rule is absolutely crucial. It removes the dean's discretion to, sit on the complaint or try to mediate it away.
Correct. And the internal institutional inquiry has to be finished within 7 days. It's a rapid-fire process.
Oh, yeah.
No time for memories to fade or for witnesses to be intimidated.
But I do want to touch on the reporting part, though. There's a clause in here about the bystander effect that I found. Well, a little controversial.
Regulation 21.
Yes. It says that not reporting an incident, even if you are another fresher, can be seen as abetment to ragging. That puts a terrified 18-year-old in a very, very difficult position.
It does.
If they see their roommate getting bullied and they stay silent out of pure fear, are they now technically liable?
Theoretically, yes. It is a harsh clause. The intent is to weaponize the student body against the bullies, to make silence itself a dangerous choice. But you're right, it places a heavy moral and legal burden on the victims and the bystanders.
It's forcing them to choose between fearing the seniors and fearing the law.
That's a good way to put it.
But let's assume they do report, and the perpetrators are caught. The punishments listed in Regulation 24. These are career-ending. We were not talking about detention.
No, we're talking about suspension, withholding scholarships, fines up to 1 lakh rupees. But the big ones are rustication for up to 4 semesters.
And expulsion.
And total expulsion. And if you are expelled, you are debarred from getting admission to any other institution in the country.
It's essentially a death penalty for your medical career. You spend years studying to get into that college, and then it's just gone.
It is, and it leaves a permanent stain. The punishment has to be recorded on your migration or transfer certificate. It's like a scarlet letter that follows you forever.
So even if you try to go to a different type of college years later, that record travels with you.
It does.
There is one specific type of punishment here that always sparks a lot of debate in legal circles. Collective punishment.
Regulation 24.3, yes. If the individual perpetrators can't be identified, the institution has the power to resort to collective punishment of the entire group or batch.
The Full Metal Jacket approach. Punish everyone to force the group to give up the culprit. I mean, is that actually effective?
Effective. Often, yes. Is it fair? Well, that's the debate. But in the context of ragging, where this idea of batch unity is often used as a shield to protect criminals, the NMC has decided that breaking that unity is necessary.
It forces the group to self-regulate.
Exactly. If the silent majority knows they're all going to lose their scholarships because of 5 bullies in their class, they will stop protecting those 5 bullies very quickly.
It's brutal logic, but I can see the necessity.
Yeah.
But all of these punishments are for the students. What I think makes this 2021 document truly different is the gun it points directly at the medical colleges themselves.
This is the real game changer. Historically, colleges would often hide ragging cases to protect their reputation. They just didn't want the bad press.
Right.
The NMC has completely inverted that incentive structure. Regulation 18 makes the institution itself liable.
So if college fails to comply, the NMC can just stop their admissions.
They can stop admissions, they can reduce the number of seats they're allowed to fill, and they can stop the renewal of course permissions.
And for a private medical college, reducing their number of seats is a massive financial hit. We're talking millions of rupees.
It's an existential threat. If you ignore ragging, you could lose your business. They can also fine the college 1 lakh rupees per incident. So the dean isn't just worried about student welfare anymore.
He's worried about the college's license to operate.
That's it. It aligns the college's financial survival directly with student safety, which is probably the only way to guarantee real, meaningful compliance.
And it turns the universities into watchdogs over their own colleges.
Yes, the university has to monitor its affiliated colleges and can even disaffiliate them. It creates this panopticon of compliance. Everyone is watching everyone else because the cost of looking away is just too high.
It's an incredibly comprehensive system. But as we wrap this up, I keep going back to that sadistic thrill line. We have built this massive, complex legal architecture, affidavits, squads, police FIRs, expulsion, massive fines, all just to stop young people from torturing each other.
It is a sobering realization. The law is necessary because the culture failed.
What's your main takeaway from this? If you had to distill this whole document down into one core insight, what would it be?
My takeaway is that the era of discretion is over. For decades, ragging was handled with a wink and a nod, a boys will be boys attitude. This document strips the authority figures of their power to just look the other way
How so?
by mandating the FIR within 24 hours, by mandating that intense watch, by mandating that the punishment is recorded on the certificate. The NMC has automated the consequences. You can't negotiate with this process anymore.
That's a crucial distinction. It's not a guideline, it's an algorithm for justice.
And I think for any students listening, or parents, this document has essentially codified empathy into law. It says that if you cannot find it within yourself to treat your juniors with basic human dignity, the state will step in and destroy your career to make sure you don't harm anyone else.
A stark warning, but a necessary one. The safety bubble, the eyes and ears, and the nuclear option. It really is all there in black and white.
Indeed.
Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. Whether you're entering medical school, sending a child there, or you're on the faculty, these regulations are your new reality. Read the fine print, because ignorance is definitely not a defense. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.